What is Christian rationalism? 1.1 Christian rationalism is a doctrine essentially spiritualistic and spiritualizing. Its activities are directed by the superior astral, and as there is an astral president as the head of each Christian rationalist center, it is obvious that rationalist practices have nothing to do with black magic labeled as spiritism, which is based on the invocation of spirits for a wide variety of purposes. 1.2 Christian rationalism is practiced only in Christian rationalist centers, in the Redemptor Center, whose headquarters is in the city of Rio de Janeiro, and its affiliates and correspondents spread all over Brazil and abroad. 1.3 Christian rationalism fights for truth and wishes that everybody can be enlightened on the meaning of life and the right conduct on each earthly existence, to avoid unnecessary suffering and the loss of incarnations. 1.4 Christian rationalism is a doctrine structured in well-defined principles, codified in the book Christian Rationalism, illustrated in the work Incorporeal Life, and developed in several other publications edited by the Redemptor Center. It teaches how to find the truth, explains the realities of life through concepts based on the lessons left by Jesus on earth, which successive distortions have made unrecognizable. 1.5 Christian rationalism is a spiritualist doctrine, whose principal aim is the enlightenment of humanity, without concern for religions, sects or creeds. It defends the truth within the limits of human knowledge so that all can perceive themselves as particles of the universal intelligence and learn where did they come from, where do they go to, and what do they need to do, to succeed in their undertakings and missions on earth. 1.6 Eternal condemnation is a lie. Therefore everybody will have the opportunity to reach to the truth explained by Christian rationalism in the course of days, months, years, or if necessary, centuries. 1.7 Christian rationalism is destined to a great and sublime mission, yet difficult and misunderstood by many, to restore the truth and re-implant the magnificent teachings of Jesus on earth. 1.8 Christian rationalism was introduced on earth by the superior astral, which is the greatest pledge of its perennial stability. Those who like to live in the sea of illusions, in the kingdom of fantasies, or in the country of dreams do not find a favorable environment in Christian rationalism, in which people are taught that everyone must face the hard reality of life with courage, self-denial and abnegation. 1.9 Christian rationalism, having in mind no other idea, intention, or interest but to awaken humanity to the reality of life, proposes to give man the knowledge he needs to overcome spiritual darkness which is so damaging and harmful to his evolution. 1.10 Because Christian rationalism is a school of spiritualization, not a religion, it has neither gods nor worshippers, and therefore makes an effort to offer all human beings a safe journey for an healthy and progressive life. 1.11 Those who study Christian rationalism have learned to trust themselves, their spiritual power and their willpower to fight and win. 1.12 The ability of reasoning is a virtue that everybody owns and can be used in life, and every single person as an integral part of the universal intelligence, though in a latent state, holds the same virtues of that intelligence. Therefore each individual should strive to develop and blossom them. Among those qualities one can find the ability of reasoning, and the practice of Christian rationalism leads the individual to that path. 1.13 Therefore, those who study Christian rationalism are not worshippers, beggars, chronic complainers or mentally subdued. They all know that stumbling blocks appear at every step of life's way, as well as that it is possible to overcome them with the moral resources at their disposal. 1.14 This doctrine teaches that each spirit is a minute fraction of universal intelligence in the process of evolution. It also shows that the universe is composed of force, spirit, and matter, and that force, which drives and moves all bodies, fills infinite space. 1.15 One of the main targets in the Redemptor Center is the expansion and dissemination of the Christian rationalist doctrine, though always within cautious and rational criteria, to avoid the degeneration to sensationalism which is incompatible with our principles. 1.16 It is a mistake to think that all beings are mature enough to receive the Christian rationalism doctrine. The majority need primarily rid of the enormous amount of habits, beliefs, limitations and fears that correspond to the chronic state of erroneous thoughts causing them, however, to undertake a new path diverse of that which they have been treading for centuries or thousands of years. 1.17 Therefore, one must not argue about beliefs. To put forth is always from the inside out, depending on the inner state of the individual and his or her capacity to learn spiritual concepts. 1.18 It is said that Jesus advised that no one should sow among the thorns. The similarity is obvious. We must have ample perception in order to avoid the propagation of the doctrine in hostile surroundings. 1.19 The occasions to explain what Christian rationalism is all about arise naturally, and the opportunity surfaces without provocation. The right response is to indicate the Redemptor center in the cases of awakened interest, thus, avoiding the need to extend into explanations. The exposition of the doctrine must always be performed under the action of the superior astral, which is given within the animistic currents formed in the Christian rationalism centers. 1.20 Therefore, once the teachings of Christian rationalism are assimilated, there is no need to make comments about its contents with people unacquainted with the doctrine to avoid arguments and clashes between different viewpoints. 1.21 Explanations about the doctrine are exclusively given in Christian rationalist houses. Those interested in the teachings disseminated by the doctrine can visit its centers. If requested, Christian rationalism can also explain its principles by mail. Therefore, everybody can be in touch with the doctrine as its doors are open and post offices serve the community. 1.22 In Christian rationalism there is not, there never was and there will never be any attempts to entice and conquer adherents to the doctrine. What there is instead is the satisfaction of welcoming in our midst all sincere investigators with the intent of preparing themselves for life and freeing themselves from the fanatical domination of dogmas, rituals and enslaving myths, so they can offer their contribution for the evolution of the planet. 1.23 However, the theory that we should wait for humanity to come to us instead of bringing the doctrine to them which was formerly acceptable, is inappropriate now, given the current development of society. To watch humanity mired in such a disturbing and degrading mud and keep on a passive posture without pointing out to people, with proper disclosure, the benefits that our spiritualist philosophy can offer, would be like committing a regrettable crime by omission. 1.24 If Christian rationalist practices cannot transform for the better, at a desirable pace, the spiritual conditions on earth in this current life journey, then those transformations will inevitably happen in future reincarnations. There is no reason to give up hope, given that the period of a single incarnation is like a drop of water in the ocean in comparison with the eternal life that we are all subject to. 1.25 There is a philosophical school called rationalism that should not be confused with Christian rationalism. The former is of materialistic nature while the latter is eminently spiritualistic. Therefore they are diametrically opposed. For that reason every time we refer to the Christian rationalist doctrine we say Christian rationalism and not just rationalism. 1.26 Christian rationalism is not associated with and is not similar to any other religion or doctrine on earth. It is unique and consists of only one code and only one discipline. Practices and routines in Christian rationalist centers worldwide are identical and in all the same unchangeable principles prevail. This unity is kept with great discipline and rigorous respect for the institutions and the direction of the superior astral. Any physical president of a Christian rationalist center can preside in another affiliate and no one will notice any discrepancies in methods and discipline adopted. 1.27 Christian rationalism with its theoretical and practical teachings offers humanity the best opportunity to live in a conscious and rational manner so human beings can put into practice a secure and efficient working program with no wastefulness, no mistakes and within the principles of solidarity and confraternization. It is an enlightening, constructive, moralist and purifying doctrine, engaged in restoring the truth about life spiritual concepts. 1.28 Listening to the lessons given by Christian rationalism and not practicing them is to neglect a responsibility of the highest significance. Those who in this current existence do not have the rare fortune of becoming acquainted with the doctrine, may have an excuse for not behaving in the manner recommended by Christian rationalism. However, those who have found it and in their indolence persist in making mistakes are running into errors of painful consequences. 1.29 Christian rationalism is a spiritualist doctrine and explains in a simple and rational manner, who are we, where did we come from, and where are we going to? 1.30 Christian rationalism was codified by Luis de Matos in 1912 with the launching of the basic work Christian Rationalism in 1914. However, its principles are as old as the world itself. These principles were taught by Jesus Christ before the Gospels. Among those principles stands out the following: the law of spiritual evolution through reincarnations, the law of cause and effect, you will pay for the bad actions practiced against others, the importance of thought, reasoning, will and self-denial in the life of all human beings, the value of discipline, work, morals, free will and family, discarding from the spirit, concepts of faith, praying, creeds, begging, worshipping, as well as clemency, miracles, grace of the biblical gospels and salvation. Be confident that the denomination of superior astral imply all the spirits of superior planes, who conduct the evolution of this world in common agreement with Jesus Christ. Spirits of the superior astral provide the conditions for psychic cleansing. 1.31 Christian rationalism is a spiritualistic philosophy, free from mysticism or religiosity, and therefore does not acknowledge the supernatural, mysteries and dogmas. Everything in the universe and in life holds a rational explanation, within the common, natural and unchangeable laws that rule all things. 1.32 The Christian rationalist doctrine began with the designation of Christian rational and scientific spiritism, using the mediumnity of people of goodwill and the elementary practice of spiritism, to be able to establish its foundations. As it progressed scientifically and spiritually, this doctrine transcended the concept of spiritist to rational, thus taking the proper designation of Christian rationalism, which cares exclusively for the enlightenment of humanity and its evolution. This way Christian rationalism engages in spiritualization, education, instruction, the awakening of depressed souls, the fortification of weakened bodies, fighting vices, and in the teaching of fairness, courage, honesty, modesty and truthfulness. 1.33 The Redemptor Center is the house of Christian rationalism. As in a human being, the spirit occupies a physical body. In the same way, this doctrine holds its own physical body, its material headquarters, that is the Redemptor Center, a house suitable for the dissemination of its teachings. The word Redemptor gives meaning to freedom, as in reality it is the truth that makes humans spiritually free, and in Christian rationalist houses the truth is disclosed. The fact that it is known as center should not be confused with spiritist center, which is a different thing. It is called center because it centralizes and because it is a place that brings specific activities together at one point to promote a spiritual culture. In the same way cultural centers promote other cultural activities. Those who arrive at them find a friendly, peaceful and tranquil environment. During sessions, the spirits in charge of Christian rationalism work in favor of the evolution of the world. Therefore they work for the psychic normalization of distressed souls, tortured by the suffering of life, and work for the cleansing of the earth environment, swarming with millions of disturbed spirits. 1.34 The basic work of Christian rationalism, in its natural simplicity, is profound and must be seen as the primary foundation of knowledge, whose framework must be built by the efforts of each one of us. Its fundamental principles encompass a new concept of the universe and life, as well as a sound pattern of behavior for those who wish to follow it. This behavior, thanks to the knowledge it provides, leads humanity to the knowledge of himself as force and matter. It shows that in every manifestation of life there is a flicker of intelligence that, like in ourselves, is part of total life. Thus we learn that we are but small torches of life, still very blunt, part of an immense flash of lightning driving forward the cosmos, which is universal intelligent life. Force and matter are, in a doctrinal sense, a synthesis of the universe. Force is life, intelligence, the principle that creates and activates everything. Only by knowing ourselves, and therefore by perceiving ourselves as intelligence, will we be able to understand life in its universal, elaborate, deep content. And only by penetrating, with the help of physics, the microscopic planetary system named atom, will we be able to understand what we are as matter. With their modern studies, by breaking down the atom into electrons, scientists have shown that matter, previously thought of as being inert, is in reality a large reservoir of energy that will change the face of Earth the day it can be put to use. These are the findings of patient researchers that enable us to assert that, from the most distant star to the clay under our feet, we are all made of the same matter. Those two words, force and matter, which synthesize human being and the universe, represent, for future generations, a plan of studies and accomplishments that will continue forever. 1.35 Christian rationalism makes an eloquent and constant plea for study and reasoning so that every person will realize the need for a diligent effort towards self-improvement. Knowledge about real life, which is a continuous process of study, will never be understood by those who, without reasoning, limit themselves to repeating obsolescent concepts linked to religious dogmas. Therefore, divulging Christian rationalist principles is nowadays an imperative, long-reaching measure. Luis de Matos introduced Christian rationalism after sensing the deplorable condition of man's character. He did it without sparing any efforts, with the conviction that he could provide the world with the one and only means of correcting the serious moral evils that were, and still are, afflicting humanity. His life, that of an honorable, dignified, enterprising, persevering, undaunted man, was a model of invigorating action that will last as a striking example in the memories of present and future generations. He did not attempt to impose on others a discipline which he himself could not follow. He did not consolidate a pattern of behavior diverse from his own. Hence the unusual moral authority that characterized his statements. This is an example of the strong beliefs of those who knows that they can serve as models of behavior. Luis de Matos was careful enough to present Christian rationalist principles in a simple, practical manner, within the reach of every mentality. As a result, his principles are understood and respected by all social strata. These principles are so simple indeed that they can be summarized in one word: conduct. In reality, their aim is to show humanity a pattern of behavior. By pattern of behavior, we mean an individual's norms of conduct in his community in accordance with the Christian philosophy. This is why rationalism is also said to be Christian. The undeniable fact is that with his code of Christian discipline, Luis de Matos developed a new mentality. This new mentality expands day by day as this code becomes known to those who, in their present incarnation, have already broken the shackles of absurd beliefs and mystical concepts. Therefore, it is in the struggles of everyday life that Christian rationalists will make themselves worthy of consideration and respect by following a well-defined exemplary pattern of conduct. The value of the principles adopted by an individual is measured not in terms of his words, but of his actions and attitudes. Each person's way of life is a reflection of his spiritual feelings. There is no easier way to bring human behavior closer to the Christian doctrine codified by Luis de Matos, than by following the living norms modeled after Christian rationalist principles.